One hit, one single moment of violent collision. That is all it takes to end a career, change a rule book, or create a legend that lives forever. The 10 hits you are about to witness did not just shock stadiums, they rewrote the entire future of professional football. And the final hit on this list, it was so brutal, so controversial that the NFL had no choice but to transform the game itself. But we are not starting there. We are starting with a collision so perfect, so devastating, that fans still debate whether it was the greatest open field tackle ever recorded. August 9th, 1990. Denver Broncos safety Steve Atwater stood alone in the open field. Running directly at him was a freight train wearing a Kansas City Chiefs jersey, Christian Okoye. They called him the Nigerian Nightmare. 260 pounds of pure muscle, the most feared running back in football. Every defender that season had tried to stop Okoye. Every single one had failed. They would bounce off him like children. They would grab his legs and get dragged for 5 extra yards. Nobody could bring this man down in the open field. And now, Steve Atwater faced an impossible choice. He weighed 217 pounds, 43 pounds lighter than the monster charging toward him. Every instinct told him to aim low, go for the ankles, survive the collision. But Atwater did something that made zero logical sense. He ran directly at Okoye, full speed, helmet to helmet, 2 freight trains on the same track. The impact was nuclear. And when the dust settled, Christian Okoye was lying flat on his back. The unstoppable force had been stopped. The Denver crowd erupted. Defensive players across the league watched that footage on repeat. Atwater had just proven something that changed defensive philosophy forever. Size does not determine the winner. Technique, fearlessness, and perfect timing do. But this hit only earns the 10th spot, because what happened in a 1960 regular season game makes Atwater's collision look gentle. November 20th, 1960. Yankee Stadium. New York Giants versus Philadelphia Eagles. The Giants had the ball, and their golden boy Frank Gifford caught a pass over the middle. What happened next became the most famous photograph in NFL history. Eagles linebacker Chuck Bednarik was waiting. Not just waiting, hunting. Bednarik launched himself into Gifford with such force that the ball flew one direction and Gifford's consciousness flew somewhere else entirely. Gifford collapsed to the ground, motionless, completely lifeless. The stadium went silent. Players from both teams thought they had just witnessed a death on the football field. And there stood Bednarik, fist raised in the air, celebrating over Gifford's unconscious body. That image was captured forever. It became the defining picture of football's violent beauty. Gifford did not just miss the next game, he missed the entire next season, 18 months away from football. When people ask when the NFL became America's obsession, many historians point to that single photograph. It showed the world that football was different. Football was war. But while Bednarik created an iconic image, the next hit on our list created something far more impactful. It created genuine fear. Lynn Swann was an artist. The Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver moved like a ballet dancer, catching impossible passes with grace that the league had never seen. He was redefining what a receiver could be. George Atkinson of the Oakland Raiders had different plans. September 12, 1976. The play was over. Swann was not even involved in the action. He was jogging back toward the huddle, completely defenseless. Atkinson sprinted across the field and delivered a forearm to the back of Swann's helmet with such viciousness that Swann crumbled to the ground with a severe concussion. The hit was so egregious, so unnecessarily violent, that Steelers head coach Chuck Noll held a press conference afterward. His words shook the league. He called it a criminal act. He said there was a criminal element in professional football. The NFL had never experienced this level of public controversy over violence. Swann missed 2 games. Atkinson was fined. But something bigger happened. The league office began paying attention to hits that happened away from the play. The seed was planted for protecting defenseless players. That seed would grow into rules that completely transformed the sport. Speaking of transformation, the seventh hit on this list did not just change rules, it changed how the entire world views one specific player. January 14th, 2007, Pro Bowl weekend. The game is supposed to be a relaxed celebration. Star players taking it easy, nobody trying too hard, nobody risking injury. Everyone understood this unwritten agreement. Everyone except Sean Taylor. The Washington safety was not programmed to play soft. When Buffalo Bills punter Brian Moorman caught a fake punt pass and started running, Taylor saw only one thing: a target. Moorman never had a chance. Taylor closed the distance with terrifying speed and delivered a hit so violent that Moorman was launched backward through the air. A punter, in a meaningless exhibition game, destroyed as if the Super Bowl was on the line. The crowd gasped. Then they roared. That single moment transformed Sean Taylor from great player to legendary figure. It captured everything about his ferocity, his refusal to give anything less than maximum violence. When Taylor was tragically killed later that year, this hit became part of his eternal highlight reel, a reminder of what pure, unfiltered aggression looked like. But the next hit did not just define a player, it officially welcomed a superstar to reality. January 13th, 2007, NFC Divisional Playoff. Philadelphia Eagles versus New Orleans Saints. Reggie Bush was the most hyped player in football. Heisman Trophy winner, #2 overall pick, the next big thing. He had dazzled in college with his speed, his moves, his ability to make defenders look foolish. Then he caught a pass over the middle against Philadelphia. Sheldon Brown was waiting.
The Eagles' safety did not care about Heisman trophies, he did not care about hype. He cared about one thing only: delivering punishment. Brown met Bush with a collision so perfectly timed, so thunderously executed, that Bush's body went horizontal in the air before crashing to the earth. Welcome to the NFL, Reggie Bush. That hit became a cultural moment. It became the ultimate example of what happens when college stars meet professional violence. Every rookie receiver, every hyped draft pick has watched that footage. It is the NFL's official warning. This league is different. This league will humble you. And yet, as devastating as that hit was, it does not compare to what one safety did to change an entire playoff game. September 2nd, 2012. Seattle Seahawks versus San Francisco 49ers. Vernon Davis was one of the most dangerous tight ends in football. Fast, powerful, nearly impossible to cover. On this play, he caught a pass and turned upfield, looking for extra yards. Cam Chancellor was waiting.
The exact wrong spot for Davis. The impact was so violent that Vernon Davis simply stopped working. His body went limp, the ball flew loose, the entire stadium heard the collision. Davis lay motionless on the field, while Chancellor stood over him, having just announced to the league that Seattle's defense was different. Davis recovered physically, but something had changed. For the rest of his career, whenever he caught passes against Seattle, there was hesitation, there was fear. Cam Chancellor had done something that statistics cannot measure. He had planted psychological doubt in an elite player's mind. This was the birth of the Legion of Boom's reputation. One hit, one moment, and suddenly every receiver in the NFC West knew that crossing the middle against Seattle meant risking everything. Now the next 4 hits do not just create fear, they create tragedy, controversy, and ultimately, complete transformation of the sport itself. December 18th, 2011. AFC Championship implications. Pittsburgh Steelers versus New England Patriots. Wes Welker caught a pass over the middle, and Ryan Clark delivered a devastating hit, legal at the time, helmet to helmet. Welker lay motionless. But here's what made this hit historic. Welker was never the same. He would continue playing for years, but the concussion symptoms lingered, the drops increased, the explosiveness faded, and the conversation around brain trauma exploded. The NFL was facing a crisis. Former players were suffering from degenerative brain disease. Scientists were connecting hits to long-term damage. Families were watching their fathers and husbands deteriorate. The Clark hit on Welker became part of that national conversation. It was legal, but it was destroying players. Something had to change, and it would change dramatically because of the next 3 hits on this list. November 18th, 1985, Monday Night Football. Washington versus New York Giants. Joe Theismann dropped back to pass and Lawrence Taylor came on a blitz. What happened next was broadcast into millions of living rooms across America. Taylor grabbed Theismann from behind. Another defender hit from the front. Theismann's leg was trapped between them. The bones in his leg shattered. Not just broke, shattered. The compound fracture was visible on camera. His leg bent in a direction legs should never bend. Theismann screamed in agony. Taylor frantically waved for medical help, having immediately realized the horror of what had happened. America watched a man's career end in real time. Theismann never played again. The footage became seared into the national consciousness. Parents watched and wondered if they should let their children play football. Players watched and confronted their own mortality. The NFL realized that millions of people had just witnessed the sport's ugly truth. Football destroys bodies. This moment accelerated conversations about player safety. It made the violence undeniable. It made reform inevitable. But there was one hit that made reform not just inevitable, but immediate. October 17th, 2010. 3 devastating hits occurred on the same NFL Sunday. James Harrison of the Pittsburgh Steelers delivered 2 helmet-to-helmet blows that knocked receivers unconscious. Brandon Merriweather of the New England Patriots destroyed Todd Heap with another headshot. 3 hits, 1 day, and the NFL finally broke. By Wednesday of that week, the league announced immediate changes. Fines increased exponentially. Suspensions became possible for dangerous hits. The head was officially declared off limits. The league sent a message to every player in every locker room. This violence ends now. That Sunday became the official dividing line in NFL history. Before that day, devastating hits were celebrated. After that day, devastating hits meant punishment. Highlight reels changed. Commentary changed. The entire culture of defensive football changed. James Harrison became the face of this transformation. He complained publicly. He argued that football was becoming soft, but the league did not care about his feelings. They cared about survival. They cared about parents allowing children to play. They cared about lawsuits from former players with damaged brains. One Sunday changed everything. But the number 1 hit on this list did not just change rules. It changed a man's life forever. And it haunts the NFL to this very day. August 12, 1978. Preseason game. Oakland Raiders versus New England Patriots. Darryl Stingley was a young receiver with unlimited potential. Fast, talented, destined for stardom. He ran a route over the middle and reached for a pass. Jack Tatum arrived at the exact same moment. Tatum was known as the assassin. He built his reputation on violent collisions. He took pride in punishing receivers who dared enter his territory. On this play, he launched himself into Stingley with every ounce of force he could generate. Stingley collapsed to the ground. He did not move. He could not move. The hit had fractured 2 vertebrae in his spinal cord. Darryl Stingley would never walk again. One preseason hit turned a 26-year-old athlete into a quadriplegic for the rest of his life. He would spend the next 29 years in a wheelchair before dying at age 55 from complications related to his paralysis. And here is what haunts the NFL most. Jack Tatum never apologized. He never visited Stingley in the hospital. He never expressed remorse. In his autobiography, he wrote that he could not say sorry for something that was a normal football play. This tragedy forced the league to confront an uncomfortable truth. The violence they marketed, the hits they celebrated, had consequences that extended far beyond the field. Stingley's paralysis planted seeds that would eventually grow into every player safety rule that exists today. Every helmet technology advancement, every concussion protocol, every targeting penalty. When defenders today complain about the modern NFL being too soft, they should remember Darryl Stingley. They should remember what football without limits actually costs. 10 hits, 10 moments of violence frozen in time. Each one left a scar on the sport itself. From Atwater proving that heart beats size to Tatum teaching the league that some prices are too high to pay, these collisions shaped everything we watch today. The NFL you love exists because of these hits. The rules that protect players today were written in the pain of yesterday. And somewhere, in some stadium, on some Sunday, the next hit that changes everything is waiting to happen. The only question is whether we will celebrate it or finally decide that some violence is too much.